happy Friday. It is another Mavens of Manufacturing Day, and welcome to episode 119. I'm sorry, I had a fruit fly flying in front of my face, so I was trying to get that out. But thank you for joining us today. If you're here, feel free to drop your comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Today, I'm super excited because I have Antigone Sharris. I would like to believe that we have become good friends because we've hung out a couple of times, and I just think you're an amazing human being. So, Antigone, thank you for joining us on Mavens today. I really appreciate you taking some time because you've been busy. You've got a lot of stuff going on. So I'd just like to start off with a brief introduction about who Antigone is and, some of the things that you were passionate about growing up and how it led you to pursuing the career that you're in right now.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show. This is very kind of you to have me here. It has been a busy summer. We've been doing a few camps and a lot of fun stuff, so it's been good. As far as myself, what happened? Why am I here? What am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? It all started with my father when I was a munchkin, and he had me helping him in repairing the house because we had no money, so we had to fix whatever we had, and otherwise we wouldn't have it. So
Mhm.
he was very handy, and I was all over the house with him. I gave him a number of black thumbs from hammering, helping him out, and he was very patient with me, thank God. And then I was lucky enough to go to a technical high school, and
Okay.
I, but I will just back up a little bit. When I was in sixth grade, I love history, and I've got a historical first name, anyways. And in general, I enjoy understanding the why that from a childhood. If you
Hmm.
ever talk to some of the people I interfaced with in high school, they'd be like, "Man, why do you keep asking why?" It was because if I don't get it, I don't understand the background. I came from another country. Was brought here when I was 4 years old, and
Okay.
I had to understand languages, and I had to. Why do we say it that way? So I got into a very big why habit, and my family was very good at answering those questions. It was annoying to others, but hey, it is what it is. But my sixth grade teacher, I said, "Oh, I love history. I love social studies, and I want to be just like this, and I want to teach history." And she's like, the joking, I can laugh at it today. She's like, "There is no future in history," the way she was talking about it. And but at the same time, she's like, "You know what? You keep building stuff. When we discuss the Parthenons, you built the Parthenon. When we discuss Egypt, you build pyramids." Out of whatever I had in the house as extra credit because Mrs. Hardig allowed for extra credit. So she's like, "Maybe you should go into engineering." So it's like, "Did you like building things?" So, and it was an interesting um, conversation back then. And when I reflect back to what I did this past summer, it's like, wow, it all came back together. Because to me,
Okay.
engineering and history are the same thing. Because they feed each other. There's a lot that interacts there. So I found myself when I got into high school, because I like to build things. I went to Lane Tech when it was Lane
Mhm.
Tech, when it was real Lane Tech, not what it is today. I had shop classes required by everybody, wood shop, electric shop. And I became a shop aide. And then my senior year, I was lucky enough to get into the work study program. Yes, they did say, "Hey, you're good at math and stuff. Why don't you do a work as a teller?" I'm like, "No, I want to work for a shop." Said I like to build, and I've been a shop aide cleaning up the floors in my Mr. V's classroom for the past 2 years. I'd like to actually work in a shop. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Yeah." And I was lucky enough to work for Janet Kaiser my senior year at Century Metal when it was across from what was that high school? I don't remember. It was Competition Tulane, but sure as it was, I think it was. And I was
Okay.
like, you know what? I love this. And working for Janet, she and I still collaborate on projects, but working for Janet that year when I was a senior was sealed the deal for me. And I'm like, this is it. I watched her with her little munchkin, and I was like, I can do this. I can definitely do this. And I was lucky enough to get, 'cause I was a senior, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to go to Antigone Sharris. And I was like, this is it. I can do this. I can definitely do this. And I was lucky enough to work for her. And I was like, I can do this. I can definitely do this. And I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to go to Antigone Sharris. do technical things. I did not want to. When I went to college at U of I Champaign, I'd
Mhm.
ended up getting a technical education degree. So I'm degreed as a shop teacher, just like my teacher at Lane. And I was like, I went into industry while I was in college. So then I ended up taking a long time to get my bachelor's, but then I learned the whole process of, okay, education is a tool to a means to an end. It's not the point. And
Mhm.
then ironically, over time, I worked in the field for a couple of different companies. And then I started teaching part time at
Mhm.
Triton. And the guys were like, oh, we're retiring. Go for the full time position. And I'm like, no, I'm not politically correct. You don't want me in academia. I'm not an academic. I'm just not. And they're like, "Oh, you should apply anyways." I'm like, "Okay." So I did. And 20, what is it? 20, we're almost 26 years later, something like that. I'm still here in education. So I went from being a part-time teacher to full-time, but I never took myself out of industry. I always stayed involved in companies. And
Mhm.
then nuts, bolts, thingamajigs came around, started doing like different programs to help uh, bring in talent because companies were complaining, hey, we don't have talent. And I'm like, well, I have talent. Why don't we talk? So I would
Yeah.
get my students in, and then I was like, you know what? There are no students taking these classes. What's the problem? Well, the kids weren't getting shop classes anymore. There's a whole cycle. So I realized, okay, well, I'm just going to have to fix this myself. So I took it upon myself to start weekend programs during the school year, get into the grade schools and the high schools, and it evolved into everything that I do today.
So there's a
So
lot that
that's a
you
very short version of a long story.
Yeah, there's a lot there that you said that I want to kind of dive into a little bit more too. So like one of the things that you said is that engineering and education and well history too is very much connected. But one of the things you said while you were going through this whole process is that wood shop and classes with skilled trades were required at one point, and then we went through this whole thing in history where now they're not required. They're a prerequisite if you, or they're a selective, whatever they call it now. You have the option to
They're an
choose them.
elective. Yeah, they're an
Elective, thank you.
elective that usually gets shoved back because of the amount of required courses. I actually, to give you an example, there's 4 years of English required now. Used to not be. And I learned recently with just trying to deal with some other navigation on family stuff. I'm like, why would you require 4 years of English when the youth in question got a 5 on the AP exam for English, meaning it counts for rhetoric one and two, as a
Hmm.
junior? So you want to hold back someone from graduation early because they don't have their 4th year English. I've had students in my program that were like, the 4th year was the only year they could finally take electives. They were
Yeah.
they were buried in gen ed heck is the language I'll use online here. I'm much more direct than in person, but gen ed heck uh, for so many years of high school and grade school that everything's just been so the standardization of education has eliminated not just for the kids, the teachers. Like my teacher, Mrs.
Yeah.
Hardig, I doubt could have done what she did with me under the current system. My love of history and my love of building and my love of seeing that network of connecting everything, I think in the current system has been set aside. Oh no, you can't do that. We've got all this standardized. I like to say instead of no child left behind, we've left every child behind.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. And my sister, she's a math teacher. She teaches seventh and eighth grade math, I believe. And she said the same thing. She's like, we have all these standardized tests now, and we're so dependent on those test scores. And she's like, what people don't understand is not every kid tests the same. Not every kid likes taking tests. She's like, but that doesn't mean that they're dumb or they don't have some form of intellect
Correct.
or something else. She's like, we have to figure out what they're good at and direct them down that pathway instead of having all of these expectations, because she agrees. She's like, otherwise we are leaving them behind and we're not giving them a fair chance to be successful in where they're good at. So I love everything that you're talking about in terms of the education. So I do want to get into the nuts, bolts, and thingamajigs. Like, how did that program start? Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
Kay Langston, who I worked with at Triton. Can you hear me clearly?
Okay. Yep, I
Can you
can.
hear me? Okay,
I
because
can.
my piece fell on the floor.
Oh,
Kay, tech failure. Yeah, love it's a love-hate relationship. Kay got me involved with these youth things when I first started as a full-time faculty. She was of all things in charge of the library.
hmm
So I did an interesting program with her, working with kids on learning how to do math with construction, and that was way back. And so she got me interested in thinking about, okay, youth programs, cool. And then I started mentoring a high school robotics team, and I realized how much the kids in high school don't know compared to what I knew. And I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy. So that was in 2007, and just trying to get a handle of where the issues were.
hmm
And then started going after grants because the school's like, well, we don't have money for youth programs. You teach, at, not just my school. This is in general. This is not a Triton thing. And there was a disconnect of seeing the big picture, the Venn diagram of how everything interconnects, that interlaced relationship. And first got it. Dean Kamen. That's why he started first, because
Yeah.
he got it before I did got it. I mean, his program started, and I just got into it, and I said, "You know what? This is true. There is a complete disconnect. All schools are dropping their shop classes because of leaving every child behind, standardizing curriculum, saying, "Oh, we're going to a service economy. Kids don't need to know how to build things. Let's kill all these programs." When I saw what happened at Lane, I went and attended the meeting and said, "No, you can't drop drafting. You can't drop these shop classes." Of course they did. And I was like, "You guys are not seeing the big picture." And nobody is. So I was like, all right. And that's when first they saw the same issue. They started their thing. And then I got involved with that. And that evolved into I needed to figure out how to fund programs, nuts, bolts, and thingamajigs. FMA saw the same problem before me. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let's try something. And I did. We're on one little summer program called Beast, bringing effective anti-violence solutions together. The license plate from Illinois, the Dove plate.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, let's see. Let's go after a grant for this. And everyone's like, what does that have to do with robots? I'm like, well, if you see a different future in your life, if you see more than just what you have, then you may say, I've got more to get involved with, and I'm busy. I don't have time for this stuff. I don't have time for getting into a fight or argument with you. I got more important things to do. You know how these idle hands is, when you hear those terms, if we keep our kids busy with quality things, they're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's I went after the root cause of violence versus dealing with the outcomes of it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go the back end of it and say everyone starts off without having issues, and then these things happen. Why? Because misdirection, a whole bunch of reasons that I'm not going to get into,
Yeah.
but in this conversation. But the outcome of doing that youth program, just doing it, there was an overwhelming response of, "Oh my god, these families really are looking for stuff in summer camps." Because it was a little summer camp thing that I did. We did it with the robotics team. It was a really cool event. We had a couple of our team members actually use it as scholarship opportunities, all these community activities that we were involved in, that I was trying to, get us involved in to help with talent creation and also
hmm
help the communities because it's a pay it forward, the bigger picture. There's a whole bunch of layers to this. And then
Yeah.
a healthier society, it has meaning, it has goals, it has ambitions on so many levels. And whether they go into manufacturing or not, I really didn't care. Because manufacturing is so diversified, it doesn't matter. You can be an accountant,
Yeah.
like I met my husband in manufacturing. He doesn't. He Do not give him any power tools. That's all I'm going to say. He handles the money. That's it. And he and I agree on that. I deal with all the repairs in the house. Don't touch a thing. Yeah,
I love that.
but that's it. But he worked in manufacturing. That's where I met him. And when you think about all the opportunities from marketing to everything,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, manufacturing serves so many disciplines and diversified skill sets. Don't tell me it doesn't exist here. And it has no
Right.
meaning to anyone other than someone who likes to power tools. So, anyways, that led me to, you know what? And then, of course, people complaining about why are not enough females involved. And I'm like, oh my God, this is killing me. So I came from a
Yeah.
European background. My parents said, hey, we don't care what you do. I find out there's cultural stuff going on where people are like define what people can do based on their gender. I'm like, oh, forget that. Coming out of
Yeah.
Lane, that it made sense to me. Why did they tell me that to go be a bank teller? Oh, because I was a girl. I'm good with
Yeah.
numbers. God forbid I go into engineering. No, you should go into accounting. And that nothing against my what my husband does. You should go in with number. Well, why can't I go into engineering? Oh,
Right.
yeah, forget that. No. So luckily, I had enough experience for me to say, no, this is what I want to do. But there are a lot of kids who get guided, uh,
Yeah.
I think, for superficial reasons, where they could just as well be an engineer, but they ended up being something else. Went into business, went into another area. They could have just gone our way. And a lot of females, I think, get misdirected away from our world uh, for the wrong reasons, just because of their
Yeah.
gender. And so Gadget came to be. And I went after funding for it, and I couldn't get it from one organization. And I went after nuts, bolts, and thingamajigs. And that's actually that convoluted story. That's how it resulted that they were the ones who funded me. Nuts, bolts, and thingamajigs. So FMA's Nuts, bolts, and thingamajigs funded Gadget in 2011. And from that, Gadget stands for Girls Adventuring in Design, Engineering, and Technology. At back then, I strictly said only could be girls, only could be run by females. Myself, the mentors could only be female. I was very strict on everything because I wanted to give the girls a space where they can be themselves, which is what I
Yeah.
found out from working with a lot of females on the robotics team and just in every other place that they're like the guys that get in there and that's it. They just push me out. I can't work on the robot. I can't do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm going to give you a space. I even threw out my lab aid like multiple times. He'd come in the room and the girls would be like, oh, are you supposed to help me with this? And I'm like, get out of here. Don't do anything. This is only for girls. It was interesting. And I was like, oh my God. Now you have to realize I spent most of my life trying to tell people, will you stop looking at me as a female? I hate this gender stuff. But I found myself
Yeah.
running a camp, creating a camp that was just for girls. And I was like, wow, this is against my grain. But I had to
Yeah.
do it because the industry was crying for more diversity in their talent pool. And I didn't have it in the ranks of my students. And I was like, wow. And then one year, it really hit hard when I saw the senior class of Project Lead the Way students come in for a fluid power activity I was doing, and it was only
Hmm.
males. A whole bunch of seniors, and it was not one, not even one female. And I was like, wow, this is killing me. So I started Gadget, and then that's the relationship with NBT. Uh, and we haven't stopped since. Their support of this, obviously Triton saying, "Okay, Antigone, it's fine." You know, when I said, "Can I have girls?" and we're going to do girls for middle school kids. Nobody at the school said no. They were all like, "Sounds great. This is cool. Let's do it." No pushback. I would hear from other people at other schools where they're like, "How did you create that program?" The minute I told them power tools and kids, they told me no. And I'm like, "Wow, not my place." So Triton just the support I had from them, just doing the little programs I did, and then to scale it up, I needed that additional external funding.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. Now this summer we have five programs, not just Gadget, Glow, Girls Learning to Wealth, and they're both open now to they're open gendered, but of course we
Mhm.
still promote push for more female engagement. And this last one we did was fun, a fun camp with the Coatings Association working with nuts bolts.
I'm gonna pull up those pictures that you sent over, and then you can talk about these a little bit. So what are we
Yeah.
seeing in these photos? Like you just got done with this camp, like was it last week or the week before? So you just ended this camp. So can you kind of
Yesterday.
dive in with, oh, yesterday.
This camp
Okay.
just ended yesterday. So if my voice
So
is like, oh my God, yes. This was on Wednesday. Exactly. This was on Wednesday. Acme Finishing. What a cool company. Totally awesome stuff. They literally will finish anything. You bring the water, whatever. I mean, obviously they do production runs, so
mhm.
they do more bigger items, but these guys are beasts. They're totally awesome. They were so kind and let us in their doors and show these kids how uh, things were painted. Things for industry are painted, industrial finishing. Because we can paint anything and then we clear coat it to protect it, but over time it fades and things like that. These guys work in the business of painting something that's not going to fade. It's going to stay on for years. And it was so cool for the kids to see that. So and that's them in the plant right there on Wednesday, seeing how things are finished.
What was their initial feedback from the students? Like, well, how did they react to getting that facility tour?
Oh, the first thing, of course, it's a hot day. So they were like, "Oh, it's so hot." And it's like, "Okay." And by the way,
Yeah.
that's something that we'll talk about if we get to it regarding some of the things companies are going to have to work on. Um, After 3 years of a lot of kids operating within their own homes and the comforts of them, um,
Mhm.
there's a shift that some of us in industry are going to have to suck up and just deal with, and that's changing like how the spaces are handled. All the kids were like, "Let's go to air conditioned area." As we
Yeah.
walk through the facility, I'm like, "What's going on with you guys?" And that was one thing that came up in my mind. But they were kind in showing the whole place, and they needed to see like what is manufacturing. If they
Yeah.
saw it, I think over time, multiple times. One of the things I like to remind people when they think about manufacturing, they think about it's dirty, and I'm like, well, so is surgery. Surgery is very dirty. Have you ever seen a surgeon come out of surgery? Okay, they look like Dexter. It's a
Yeah.
very dirty work environment. But
It
it's
is.
like they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, right?
Right.
And I've had people who went into nursing. This is fun. I've actually had one of my students went into nursing, comes out and totally is like, whoa, I'm not dealing with this, and comes into our program. And I asked the question, well, why did you do that? What's going on? You went and got a full bachelor's degree in nursing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, the things we had to deal with. And I'm like, okay, you didn't understand nursing involved blood, really sick people, everything that comes along with dealing with really sick people. And I mean
And
everything.
bottom
You thought it was a clean
functions.
job that you would go home and never have to worry about cleaning God knows what from under your nails?
Yeah.
But we get the bad rap. Who gets the bad rap? Manufacturing. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
dirty job. Oh, like being a nurse isn't a dirty job. Healthcare
Yeah.
is not a dirty job. It's a totally clean job. Tell me I it's like, my
Well,
God.
and then
But
there's
we get the
still the
bad rap.
conversation. there's still the conversation around too if it's even a stable career option. And then, I've even seen comments on LinkedIn from shop owners and machinists where they're like, I said I wanted to go into this, and it's like society puts their nose down at us because we're blue
Correct.
collar and we're not white collar, or we have a community college degree versus a 4-year degree, so we're not as smart. And they feel very disrespected by society as a whole in certain situations. And it's just like, it doesn't mean that you're less intelligent or you're not, professional if you work in a shop floor environment. Like, that's like, you're making things with your hands, you're using your critical thinking skills to program some of these CNC machining projects. Like, there's real problem solving happening on the shop floor, and the individuals that work on the shop floor are some of the coolest people ever. Like, they have stories upon stories upon stories about why they're doing what they're doing. And we have to stop like separating it that way. And I'm not trying to say 4-year education or degree, like if you want to go get your PhD, I'm not trying to say don't do that, but it's not for everyone. Like, there's different things that you can do. And you mentioned that as well, like your husband's an accountant. I'm a writer, and a lot of people are like, well, do you have an engineering background? No, not at
Nope.
all, because I suck at math. Like, I cannot, I still use my
So do
fingers to
I, by
add
the way.
things together,
I
so
like to remind
I was
people.
always
Yeah.
I was always guided to do writing. So that's where I ended up. And, I just happened by accident to get into this sector, and I don't want to leave because it's so fun and the stories are amazing. And I help people. And now everybody's like, oh, well, chat GPT is going to take away your job. No, it's not. Like, I'm good at it. So it's fine. But yeah, I think we need to stop like putting a bad rep on things that, yes, can be dirty, but with all these other advancements and
So what?
technologies, there's clean places too that you can work in manufacturing.
Well,
So yeah,
here's
it's a
my
good.
comment. Yeah. Again, when I think of all the different careers that are out there, okay, being a chef is a very clean job. You never have to wash your hands. You never have to deal with and wrong. I know people who
Right.
are chefs. They're just as dirty as I am. So telling
Hmm.
me that, oh, I just don't want to get my nails, get over it. Seriously? Every career, you think you're
Yeah.
going to walk. By the way, the jobs that that are clean are being replaced by AI. Let's put it that way. If you want to talk about never getting your hands dirty, never dealing with anything, good luck with that one because pretty much every worthwhile career pathway that involves getting involved, that
Hmm.
is AI proof, get it? You have to open your brain up to everything that's going on around you. Like you as being a writer. There's that, oh, it drives me insane when people talk about, oh, AI is going to replace writing. Only if you don't know how to. You're correct. But you know what? Our kids, with all the quote unquote AI support, will have issues if we don't tell them, do it yourself. Relying on that kind of stuff is bad for you, just like anything else in
Yeah.
life. Being hung up on using, like our tech, you know, it's like
Hmm.
I try to take the tech and show the people how to drive the tech, not be driven by it. Went like a calculator. Oh my God, when the calculator came into existence, it's been around forever, but you know what I mean. And all these
Yeah.
kids now with the schools, oh, they can use their calculator. I'm like, well, what's 2 plus 2? Even in the summer camps, I'm like, okay, the thing has to be centered 12 inches by 12 inches. What's the center of 12 by 12? And I got these kids thinking, nope, don't touch your calculator. We can figure this out. Half of 12. And they all figured it out. It wasn't that difficult for any of them. But I'm making them think
Hmm.
and I'm making them use the technology to our advantage. And that's where AI gets done, kaboshed. It's
Yeah.
a tool. It is not going to replace you unless you choose to be sitting on your Badinsky doing nothing. then
Like in the
expect to be the
movie,
one replaced.
like the movie Wall-E, like that one scene where they're all just sitting in their floating chairs and they have a screen up to their face and they're not. And I know it's a cartoon, but that's like the example that always comes to my mind. And the thing is like I see it with my daughter all the time. There's certain soft skills that she doesn't have because they are so reliant on technology. So, like, some of her social skills are not up to par. Like, she gets anxious around certain individuals because she's so used to texting on her phone. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, she has to learn how to have conversations with people, especially strangers, when she starts getting more exposed to the working life. Like, she has to have conversations, and she wants to go into nursing. So it's like you're going to have to talk to
Good luck.
people when you're in nursing, and you're going to have to deal with some complicated personalities as a nurse. Like
Uh-huh.
that's how it's
Oh,
going to
yeah, and
be.
sick
So I
people are not nice.
no,
Sick people are
anybody in
not nice
pain,
people.
right? Well, I
Yeah,
want to
there's a
just dip in.
whole anyways.
Yeah, I want to dip into some of these comments too because we have a lot of people commenting. So Dan's tuning in. Hi, Dan. Thanks for joining us. Hugo says, Mrs. Sharris is awesome. I have no idea who you are, but hi, thank you for joining us. LinkedIn is kind of buggy sometimes. And then we have Hank. He has two daughters that watch Automation Ladies and Mavens of Manufacturing every week, and he calls them his junior board of directors, and they're awesome. So thank you, Hank, for joining us. Heather says, "Woo, love nuts, bolts, and thingamajigs." Olga says hello. Hank says the three. I don't know what he was commenting on there. Nikki from Automation Ladies is here. Hi, Nikki. Thank you for joining us. She says Hannah also started in nursing and made her way to controls. I still use my fingers to do math. I'm not ashamed about it
So do
anymore.
I.
I know where my strengths are. We
Oh,
have
I
Andrew
count and I
Co.
do it.
Yeah, I do too. My kids make fun of me for it because they're better at math than I am. And I'm like, it is what it is. And then the girls love dirty jobs as well. See, I like getting dirty. Like when I was younger, I would make mud pies. I would just go and play in mud. I don't know. And there's something about wood tech class that I just love the smell and just making a mess out of the wood chips. Like, I don't know. Not every girl likes to be quote unquote girly. Like it's okay. It's not a big deal. I do want to get into what you're doing at Triton specifically because I just saw something on LinkedIn where it was a news clip and they were talking about the state of manufacturing and how companies are struggling to find skilled talent. And they're saying like 1.2 or 2 million jobs by 2030 are going to be available. So what specifically is Triton doing to prep the next generation of skilled talent for manufacturing and engineering? And then, part two of that question, where do you believe we're missing the mark when you see some of these kids coming in and signing up for some of these engineering and manufacturing classes? Because there is a disconnect. There's a gap there that
Huge. It's huge and it's not local, it's national. But I'll
Mhm.
start with the first part. Locally, Triton College has invested. Now it's going to be, I think, on the par just in the last short period of time here. I think well over $200,000 of Triton in putting together what will become our uh, our robotic welding curriculum and all the associated needs of the curriculum on campus and boosting everything up because they know um, demand's up. Our only
Mhm.
issue right now is they're also wanting to invest in a new time in another full-time faculty member for the curriculum. And that's something we're working on getting done. And so we need I'm going to put a call out to everybody, somebody who has a paid forward, number 1, paid forward mentality. That's mission critical. Number 2, appreciates our role in a person's professional development, the quality control aspect of it, the demands of the role, and does not want to dumb down the curriculum and simplify things because we are trying to serve the needs of industry. And industry, man, are we fighting hard. I am, I personally just dealing with the various high schools and talking to colleagues like myself at other parts of the country We are all struggling with what the high schools are doing, and it's killing us. So for us, we all want faculty on our end who do not feed that monster of lowering expectations, of simplifying what we're doing because we need to keep that bar where it needs to be. So in our
Hmm.
area, for us, we're investing in another full-time faculty member. So if anyone's interested, www.triton.edu. No, you don't need a master's. Yes, you can have a bachelor's. Yes, by the way, it doesn't have to be exactly in engineering. Why? What's mine in? I'll give you an example. Mine is, of all things, I have an associate's in engineering technology. I have a bachelor's in vocational education. Okay. And I have 5+ years of field experience before I got hired at Triton as an adjunct, by the way, not full time, but I had 5 years of field experience in the world of engineering. That is what most community colleges, not just mine, are looking to hire for this type of pathway. My colleague, Andrea Blaylock, who joined me later on, she was a mom on the robotics team. I found out she had a degree in electrical engineering. Said, "Hey, why don't you come by and teach a class?" So she did, and she started as an adjunct, and then she rolled into. We had a grant opportunity back then, and then she became a full time faculty member. And that's how we built our staff. But right now, we're self funding. We want to bring in more staff. So another full time faculty member is what we're looking to do to add to the family and to be able to build a program even more to help the area. I'm pretty confident we can take over more space in our building. Uh, and everything will be there. We just need to have more talent. It's a capacity issue. Just like companies have a capacity issue, they don't have enough talent. We also
Yeah.
are struggling the same manner. So I put my word out there. Companies, every company I visit now, I look at them and say, "So you have your degree? Okay, you want to come teach for us?" I am literally saying this is going to be a team effort. We are going to change everything if we get involved. Come and teach classes by us.
Yeah.
National Fluid Power Association, I work with them. One of their companies said, okay. So one of their employees is going to come and be an adjunct teacher for us this semester. And it's for a night class, but that's fine. It's outside of work hours. There's nothing wrong with that. We have an evening population of students. We have a day population of students. It would be awesome if we can collaborate with with companies and have one of their engineers be possibly teaching a day class. We got to think outside the box. How are we going to work together to help each other? And I always remind them, hey, while you're the teacher, you could be finding the next talent that you need at your company. Come on.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, and
team
that
effort.
they don't see that connection right away because we've been doing things for so long. There's a gentleman, his name is Devin Russell, and he's in the Minnesota area, and he is trying to start this program where it's not just his company. So, and it started with him where he went and asked his company, "Hey, can I dedicate this many hours to the high school in their VOTEC program?" So that, when they come across problems with CNC machining and all this stuff, at least they have someone in the field that does this stuff, guide them through the process. So, but he's on the sales side for his company too, so he can't always like commit to the hours that he initially wanted to commit because things happen in manufacturing. You have your busy season. So he started connecting with other manufacturing companies and said, let's try to make a rotational system among all of us. So I'm not the only one doing it. You're not the only one doing it. So at least they have at least one person in every single week from someone in the field that can help guide this program and teach them what we're actually doing in industry. So I thought that was a really good idea. And then
100%.
Matt Goosey is doing the SOS program, which is Save Our Schools, and they're actually providing incentives to their tech ed teachers to learn and upskill their skill set at his shop. So he's bringing the teachers in to teach them what he's doing at his
Yeah.
shop, and then they can take that information and come back. But they're getting paid to do it. They got like an
Yeah.
additional uh, so many thousands of dollars added onto their yearly salary to do that. So
One summer, to give you an idea, one summer, this was self-directed. I was working with one of the companies anyways, and when we were starting up the welding program, and I told them, I said, I haven't welded in 10 years. Can I work in your shop this summer? just to get myself back into the groove of things.
Hmm.
And they said, "Yeah," and they paid me, and I worked
Yeah,
for them for a summer. That was sure way. It, wa-
that's
that
awesome.
I did it because I felt I needed to get I needed some just I like to say play with the toys time, but real time, not just a little bit here and there. And they were kind enough to basically say, we need the help anyway, so come on in. And if
Yeah,
we can have opening minds of manufacturers to collaborate in that manner is mission critical because it's like you want the talent. Oh, and the other one I love is, oh, we only want full time. And I'm like, can't you take them in as interns? Just take them in part time the semester. Don't make them crash and burn their entire semester. Come on. And I have some companies that are cooperative, others that are not. And the ones that are cooperative, they get what they want. They get the results, which is they want a full timer. So what? They got to wait maybe 16 weeks. They've been waiting how many months, anyways? Is it that hard? I'm no offense. I'd sometimes sit there and wonder, come on, take one of these people in part time. And the hard headed companies, it's tough. They're like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want full time or no time. I'm like, okay, I'll try, but it's hard. And if they would just collaborate a little bit, it's amazing the talent that they can acquire. And then
yeah.
the rest will be history.
I wonder why there's such big pushback from companies like that, why they don't want to do that.
It,
It's the same with high school students though too. Like there's so many high school students that want to do something different than what they're told to do because like they don't like that linear path that's provided sometimes. And the high school that I graduated from, they actually just hired a new welding teacher, and he was in the Navy. He welded on the big Navy carriers. So he's actually a certified welding inspector. So what he brought to the table, he's like, okay, I'll teach these kids how to weld, but I want them to actually take a certification test, welding test, so that before they graduate, they're a certified welder. And that means if they don't want to go to college, but they want to get a job right away, they have that certification to get any kind of welding job within these parameters after they graduate from high school. And then if they want to pursue something else, they can test out for the community level degree and then do something else with it if they choose to. So he's doing a whole lot, and I don't think they would have been able to do that if he himself didn't come in and take a pay cut.
it
You
does
know,
take,
like
exactly. That's what I mean about the pay forward attitude. You have to appreciate our role. We have to appreciate our role in the person's professional development. To be
yeah.
honest, in our particular region or area that we serve, they don't need to get any type of certification, but they do need to know the basics. Measuring. M-
Hmm.
When I, when I say math, I'm not talking about calculus. And that goes back to how you had mentioned you weren't good in math, neither was I. I could do up to trig and I was fine with that. But when we got into the upper level, at least the way it was taught, remember, I'm the
Hmm.
one who always asks why. I couldn't understand why the equations were set up the way they were. And when I would ask, I was dealing with math teachers who themselves, I swear to God, did not know why, because they could not answer the questions that I was posing to them. And I was like, okay. And I was like, you know what? I don't like this anymore. So for me, I had to take my math class at Champaign twice. I failed it the first time. I had to take it a second time because I was basically dealing with a TA that didn't know what they were doing and the professor was non-existent. So I completely, I'm probably the wrong person to talk about college instead because my opinion is you would wonder, do you have a degree? What are you talking about? Because I have a very different perspective of how education should be handled. To me, it's a tool. You use it to get where you want to go. And curriculums, people, oh, it's you either go to college or you go to the field. And I'm like, BS. You yin yang this business. You get what you want out of the community college at a low cost. Go to the career programs at the community college. If they tell you to take gen eds, tell them thank you very much. It's not for me today. I would like to be here to take my shop classes. And the answer is,
Mhm.
yeah, we have them. I don't care which college you're talking about. Trust me. Just go to your local community college. I don't care where you are on this planet. I understand community colleges are a United States thing. That's another conversation. In other parts of the world, they're like trade programs. So here in the States, trust me, go to your local community college. There are technical programs there. I was dealing with a parent who contacted me. They were out in God knows where. And I directed them to their local community college and showed them, look, if your son wants to go into electrical, he wanted to go into the electrical union. I said, go take the electronics classes. Oh, those aren't for electrical. I'm like, yeah, they are. Ohm's law is Ohm's law. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
The electricians have to learn about Ohm's law. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, they still have to learn how to strip wire in the electrical class they're taking at the community college, just like they're going to learn how to strip wire over at the union. Why do you want your son to wait or go into some trade program and spend some stupid amount of money over there? Because most trade programs here are those for profit, take your money, leave you out. No, I'm sorry. I've got a very negative opinion of trade programs because I have too many people come to me with debt. I'm not going to name names, so don't worry about that. But when you come to me with $11,000 in debt from taking a welding program at a trade school, and you're coming to me trying to get an education that's going to get you employed, I got to wonder what's going on
Yeah.
because my guys are coming out of my program, barely coming out of my program, meaning they were getting employed within the first semester. I'm getting them in the field right away. They're not even paying for their classes because they're on
Yeah.
scholarship. Financial aid covers everything if they're on FAFSA. I don't get it. So I'm like, just please stop listening to those ads at midnight or whatever's going on. I know if you touch their website, they're going to send you 1,000 emails. And you're right, the community colleges don't.
Yeah.
We're the best kept secret in your neighborhood. So please go to your community college. Please, please.
Dan says as an electrician he can confirm this. But you even, I mean, we came to I can't remember the school, but we were helping volunteer at that robotics competition, the underwater one that
Oh, yeah,
you and
yeah.
Kathy were
Oh,
at.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
my daughter was there and you even told her like, okay, you want to go into nursing, take this pathway. Yeah, she didn't listen and she did her own thing. That's fine. But I mean, it was good advice. Like there are different types of pathways that you can take where you're not in debt. Like I'm still paying off my graduate debt from college. Is it what I want to do? No, I have to do it. Like that's life. But I feel like we're
But had you
prioritizing.
known, had you been given
Right.
see, here's the thing, when I deal with after 25 years of being in higher ed and working with students, and grade schoolers and high schoolers and being the mentor for the robotics team and talking to kids and I'm currently the co-advisor for the Honor Society Phi Theta Kappa and just talking with people there and then listening to people talk about their debt and talking about debt uh the stuff they're doing at the federal level or trying to and I'm like I don't understand why anybody's in debt because if you take a these kids today the opportunities of getting around we
Hmm.
weren't given this advice. I started at university. Okay. My parents didn't, my father had passed when I was still in grade school, but my mother didn't understand the system here. Remember, community colleges only exist basically in the United States. Nobody understands the academic system. Nobody helps navigate the waters. The counselors at the high schools all went to college, all went to university because in order to be a counselor at a high school, you have to have a bachelor's degree. None of them
Hmm.
understand that there's so many different ways to skin this entire conversation of how to get the education you need for where to go. And I'm like, it made sense that you and I did what we did.
Yeah.
Luckily, the only reason I didn't get into debt was um, I my career pathway in Champaign required that I go to a community college to get my core meat and potato classes, and I came back to Triton, of all places. That's my alma mater as well. And within a month, my teacher uh, oh my God, Mr. Fricano. Sorry, almost forgot his name. But Mr. Fricano's like, there's this on the job board was had listed a job, and I used my high school portfolio at the interview, and that's how I got into LK as an intern. And that never would have happened in Champaign as a freshman.
No.
They don't, you're just fodder. At the universities, that's all you are. No offense to people who went through university. I'm not going to get into that debate because I've been in enough arguments on that one. But I was like, wow. So, I mean, I didn't know. And only because of that did it work out the way it did for me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to tell everybody about this approach. It
Yeah.
works. And
I am seeing a shift though with high schools now where they are trying to show the different paths that you can take. So if you do want to go, I still believe that we have a lot of work in terms of that. I know the high school that I graduated from, they're really trying to push, okay, yes, you can go to a 4-year university if you want to, but that's not the only option that you have. You can actually go
well,
to
you can still go
the
there.
right. You
That's
can
the
do
thing.
community college. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got
So
one of mine. She wanted to go to Purdue. She couldn't afford going to Purdue. She comes to us, and then I told her, "Hey, we got this grant," and she did not have to pay for a dime at Triton because of the grant that we had. And guess what? She's at Purdue. And guess what? She's interning at one of our companies in the summer. So it's like she'll get her degree, but really, she'll get her bachelor's, and she will have spent hardly anything compared to what she was looking at as a freshman. And the only reason I met her was because her friend's family member was a student. I mean, oh my God, the networking. It was
yeah.
just happenstance. I mean, the way this happens. But regarding the high schools, that was actually the first part of your question, or
Mhm.
possibly the second part. I can't remember at this point.
It's
The
okay.
biggest issues with high schools right now, in my opinion, is the fact that they're obsessed with Chromebooks. And I've been posting about this on LinkedIn. It's driving me absolutely insane because, and it's not Project Lead the Way's fault because I actually directly communicated with Project Lead the Way. I was
Mhm.
being told, oh, we're using Fusion. Uh, okay. Uh, in our classes. And I'm like, why? Well, that's what Project Lead the Way has us using. I'm like, no, it doesn't, because I did my homework. They're using Fusion because it works on Chromebooks because it's an internet-based software product versus AutoCAD and SolidWorks and Inventor, which are industry products. Guess what
Right.
else they're doing because they're using Chromebooks? These kids, they're not learning how to use Excel. They're not learning how to use Word. They're not learning how to use PowerPoint. Okay. So when we're looking at and then they're using the language, well, we're exposing them to it. I'm like, you know what? You have a 16-year-old kid that if they knew AutoCAD, this makes me upset, so forgive me. You
No,
have a
you're fine.
16-year-old kid that if they knew AutoCAD could be employed. Because guess what? When we want to talk about the shop side, oh, we want them to learn how to use Haas machines and Mastercam. I'm like, you're doing industry products there, but they can't be hired until they're 18.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why you have a whole group of kids that want to go into engineering and you're not even teaching them the engineering software that they could be hired on while they're in high school.
That's
They could be
interesting.
summer interning on the office side of these companies. Oh my God, it's driving me absolutely insane. And this is not a local issue. What I'm talking about is a national problem. The
Yeah,
more
'cause Chromebooks are everywhere in schools.
correct, they're everywhere in schools, but where are they in companies?
I don't see any.
Correct. Oh, and I love the one I dealt with one high school instructor, gives me a migraine thinking about it. And he's like, "Well, this company uses it." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a tiny little couple of person shop. No offense, but I'm not why would I want to teach people that is only being that you can only really get hired at a tiny little shop that probably doesn't even have anybody to hire that's not going to be hiring you for CAD.
Mhm.
It's like, do you you're We need to be teaching kids the products that are going to be most used in industry, not least used.
Hmm.
Chromebooks are not the norm in industry, in any industry, except academia.
Yeah,
You know,
I haven't.
no
I
offense,
mean, I
but
might have seen some, but
no,
not a lot. Like
no.
it
It's
isn't an
not like
industry.
apples, okay? You
Right.
see the Apple computers. If you go into a graphic arts department in a high school, they have Apple. But if you
Hmm.
go in the engineering department in a high school, like the Project Lead the Way, they're all in Chromebooks. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. You know to get Macs for your graphic arts students, but you think it's okay to put your engineering prep students on Chromebooks.
Yeah, that's
Why don't they deserve the proper product? Why are you shortchanging them? That
yeah.
is the way that's the language I'm using on this subject because I'm trying to understand what other than obviously IT, it makes it easy for them, but it's the wrong thing to do. If we really want to get our Project Lead the Way kids actually that I have to kind of put a ding on Project Lead the Way and say, uh, you guys are not doing it right. Because
Well,
you saying this is okay to me is a wrong thing. You're very picky about making sure they get Haas equipment and everything else, but you don't think it's important to tell them that they should be on Windows computers using SolidWorks or Inventor or AutoCAD. AutoCAD is the number one CAD product on the planet.
hmm.
It's like teaching an engineer I like to say AutoCAD for us in engineering is like Excel for an accountant, is like Word for a writer.
Yeah.
Okay. No offense, but I'm like, you may as well tell why do you put, they put so much, forgive me for hitting on athletics. I have nothing against athletics, but other than I'm going to throw this out on the table, you would never want to put an athlete in the wrong equipment for the
Right.
sport they're in, would you? We
No.
consider us as academic athletes. Why would you put us in the wrong equipment?
Right. Dan just said how. Well, that's not the one he said. How do they think someone can adequately use a CAD with a Chromebook? I think if I were to try it, would let the magic smoke out.
They're not. That's the thing. They're not. That's the answer. They're not learning
And
AutoCAD in high school anymore. They're
I
putting
think
them on Fusion. I'm like, what the I'm okay.
I think that proves the point though where there is a disconnect between manufacturing companies and the community members that they're involved
Oh,
with. So
not just
like,
manufacturing. You have to appreciate when it comes to the fact that these kids are not learning Excel, they're not learning PowerPoint, they're not
mhm,
learning Word. That affects everybody.
yeah,
That's not just manufacturing, if you want to think of it that way. That's literally every company on the planet
yeah,
that uses Windows products. They're not learning the platform they need to learn to be effective in the marketplace. For the majority, every time you jump online and it says they need to know how to use Outlook, Office products. So, oh, it's good enough, is what I get told. It's a close,
no. Because then
yeah,
you have
really?
to kind of relearn that whole thing. Like when they get out of high school, then they're going to have to relearn
Correct.
how to actually use it, and that's just a waste of time and a waste of money. So why not?
Correct.
That's why I try to push so hard for manufacturers to be proactive and, go to the schools or have some sort of event other
Right.
outside of
Well, when
manufacturing day.
they're
Like,
on
don't
the
just
advisory committee meetings, by the way, just realize this. The companies that are on the advisory meetings for all these different high schools, because that's required by Perkins funding, stop being sheeple.
yeah.
Don't say, "Oh yeah, that's okay." And by the way, if the high school tells you, "Well, this is the funding we have, and we have to use Chromebooks because that's what our district has approved for our school to use," no, not for this curriculum. Stand up for us. Stand up
Yeah.
for industry. Don't sit there and say, "Okay, all right, that's fine." And
Yeah.
by the way, if they're going to tell you, well, if you say no, where's your money? Are you going to put your money where your mouth is? my 10 cents is we have something called Perkins funding. High schools get more money than community colleges. Don't tell me the money's not there because it is. They're wasting it on Chromebooks. Make sure they actually prioritize funding to meet the actual Perkins guidelines of industry prep, not what the high school wants to think of as industry prep. We're familiarizing them with products. Pay attention, companies. All
That
of you
is
on the advisory committees, families, parents. I told one district who's like, well, this is what we're sticking to. I said, and they're like, well, this, that, and I'm like, I'll be happy to tell every single parent that has their child in your engineering program that their child is unemployable
mhm.
because what you're teaching them is unemployable.
That's so true. Dan said Google Sheets is not Excel.
Thank you. Thank you. I need everybody on everybody. I that's they think Google Sheets is good enough. They think what's that called? Slides or whatever, Google Slides is fine. Don't worry
Google
about it.
Sheets.
It's okay. They are so and it's worse because of the last couple of years when they did that online teaching and stuff. So Chromebooks were perfect, you know. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, Chromebooks are perfect to really ruin our kids' professional development. Good job. You have to end this. I can't do it
Yeah.
alone. We got to do it as an entire country because
This
we're
is such a
literally
great
leaving every child behind.
this is such a good conversation. I love
Oh
this.
God, yeah.
Well, Antigone, we are like past an hour,
I'm
and
sorry.
I could no, you're totally fine. Like I could talk to you all freaking day about all of these things. So, before I let you go, I do want to ask you one final question, and that's your ask for our audience. So, if you had a big ask that you want everybody to consider, what would that ask be? And then, before I let you go, I want you to share your contact information as well too, because I think we do need to have these conversations more and this is something that not just myself, you, and Andrew are trying to get manufacturers and community members to come together and think about. Um, we have to start doing it. Otherwise, we are going to be left behind in manufacturing as a nation. So, what
Yeah.
would your ask be for our audience today?
Get involved. Get involved. Be engaged. Ask more questions and be less cooperative. It's going to forgive me for phrasing it that way.
I love it though.
Because that's, I think, what will wake up people to the realities of what we need in industry and respect the needs of our children who need ultimately we all like to retire and we're going to need our kids to take care of us and we should be respectful of prepping them properly for uh, the field and that it means we all have to just get involved with your school, get involved, help us out on the teaching side, those of us who are teachers. Don't be afraid. A lot of us are not as pretentious as you might think we are.
So many good points. Heather goes, I love your passion. Van agrees. And then she goes, make good trouble.
Oh, I
So
have been.
Antigone, how can people get a hold of you if they have any more questions for you, or where should they go to connect with you?
um, I'm the crazy engineering teacher at Triton, but www.triton.edu is the school's website. My email address is my complete name altogether at triton.edu. And I'm
Oh,
on LinkedIn with a number of you, so I'm happy to help in any way. If you guys need help on your end, whatever way you need help, I'm here to help you.
excellent. Well, thank you, Antigone, so much. I'm sure we will reconnect again somewhere along the line and have another great conversation because you're so passionate and you're so involved, and that's why I'm so appreciative that you were able to come here and share some of your story and your insights on what we need to change because we need to do it. So everybody that tuned in and commented, thank you so much. I hope you all have a great weekend. Stay tuned. I have a message from our featured sponsor, which is Advanced Manufacturing Expo. That's coming up in August. It's in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Gray Solutions is going to be sponsoring Spot there from Boston Dynamics. So Stay tuned for that video. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.